it won't mark, and away from CCTV cameras.
The Waikato Times is featuring a cat lady. She's got about 20. Helen McCaig was at the Nine Lives Cat Club's annual show on the weekend with a rare Kinkalow cat worth about $900. It's an American curl Kinkalow crossed with the Munchen breed.
The Dominion Post this morning leads with injured New Zealander Kevin Saunders, who has been left partly paralysed and unable to afford home care after a fall in an Australian hospital. A rights advocate says that he joined a growing list of expats who've been locked out of disability care.
The Press is also featuring the State Care Report, which said residences are outdated, prison-like and bleak. There's also a report on Christchurch residents waiting years for failed earthquake house repairs to be fixed.
And the Otago Daily Times reports that St John in the south will be boosted by more than 30 full-time staff over the next 4 years. That's included in that announcement you were hearing about from the government of about $60 million over 4 years for extra ambulance funding. Well, it's 9 minutes to 8. The Associate Social Housing Minister, Alfred Naro, has apologised to the Prime Minister after saying that organisations that criticise government policies should not count on keeping their government funding. He was speaking at the National Party's regional conference in Auckland. He singled out the Manukau Urban Māori Authority, whose chief executive, Willie Jackson, is, of course, a Labour Party list candidate. He said that if Mr Jackson bagged the government on the campaign trail, there could be repercussions for his organisation. So let's talk now to Willie Jackson. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Guy.
What do you make of these comments from Alfred Naro?
Oh, really disappointing. Really disappointing. And, the funny thing is, Guy, he didn't even talk about charter schools when he came to the marae. And I wasn't there. He was talking with my 2IC, and they were talking about a housing project. But somehow this has come into the whole charter schools debate. So I think he's playing politics. But I mean, this is not just about charter schools. This is about community organisations and their rights. I think this is unprecedented, isn't it, Guy? And I've never heard of a minister threatening a community organisation like this. So
you don't often hear it in public, do you?
I've never heard of it in my whole life, and I've been involved with politics probably longer than you. And it's a direct threat, and it's a worry for me, Guy, because I've got over 100 people who work for me, and we serve thousands in our community, and we have contracts right across the state sector in education, corrections, broadcasting, welfare, and housing, and so he's threatening to cut back on our funding if I bag them during the campaign. I mean, I've been bagging National for years, as you well know, Guy, and I've been a broadcaster. And
I imagine now, Willie, you're just going to keep your mouth shut, are you?
No, not at all. I'm going to be writing a letter to the Prime Minister to ask for some assurances here, because it's not about me. I got a lot of my people who are worried. In our community, this is not just about me. This is about the rights of our community. This is about the rights of people like me to be able to give views without being directly threatened by Alfred, who normally is not a bad sort of bloke. I don't mind Alfred Nuttall. My people like him. He came from the community, so I don't know what he's up to, but he shouldn't be playing these sort of games.
Is there any evidence that he has actually changed any funding decisions on the basis of political opponents?
Well, none so far, but we've always got, proposals in, and as I said, we've got a big housing need in South Auckland, and we're working on a housing project with them. So I heard Stephen Joyce talking about the charter school and Willie Jackson's family. Our charter school is run by a very professional board, and I didn't have a lot to do with it now. I stood down as chair once I became a Labour candidate. I'm still CEO for our organisation, but they've got to stop playing these games and talking about charter schools. It's much bigger than that. It's much wider than that. I've got professional people who work right across the spectrum for me, Guy, and who make decisions, with, they go in front of government committees, and this is not Willie Jackson's setup. This is our community. I mean, of course, I shouldn't say that. Of course, it's my setup too. I'm proud of it. But
right.
There's so many people involved, Guy, and it's a bit of an insult to all those people. And I know all those people, and I know he's given all these apologies to his seniors to keep his job, and well done, Alfred. But there's a lot of hurt people within my organisation that maybe he needs to have a think about. So I'll be writing a letter to the Prime Minister today to ask for some assurances.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can get them for you right now. I've got the Prime Minister has come into the studio in Auckland. Kia ora, good morning, Prime Minister. Good morning to you. This issue of Alfred Ngaro basically threatening to cut the funding of his political opponents, what do you make of that?
Oh, well, Alfred was wrong to say that. He's apologised to me and his colleagues, and I think realised that we don't work that way. Actually, Alfred doesn't work that way. He does a great job in his responsibility with social housing, working with people who don't agree with him. And with respect to the partnership schools, we welcome Willie Jackson's participation, and if he applies, he'll be considered on his merits like everybody else.
Okay, so why on earth then would he say that he was going to cut the funding of his political opponents if he didn't believe that? And it wasn't some off-the-cuff remark. I mean, he made it in quite a formal setting, didn't he?
Well, I think it was off the cuff, frankly. I mean, Alfred has a track record of doing a great job, working, as I said, working with all sorts of people. You know, he's overseeing the emergency housing, working with groups who spent all last year criticising the government pretty heavily, but are very competent operators, and he's getting the emergency housing in place.
Let's look at what he said. He said, quote, "If you get on the campaign trail and start bagging us, then all the things you are doing are off the table. They will not happen." It's pretty clear, isn't it? That's a threat that if you criticise us, there goes your project.
Well, it's a threat that is meaningless, actually. I mean, he's
an associate. No, he is a cabinet minister.
That's right, and he's withdrawn the remarks and apologised, and I'm making it clear this is a government that focuses on results, not on whether you agree with us.
Has he breached the cabinet manual in your view?
Oh, look, I haven't looked into that.
Well, I've looked at this and I'll put it to you. 2.53, the Cabinet Manual. In all these roles and at all times, ministers are expected to act lawfully and to behave in a way that upholds and is seen to uphold the highest ethical standards. Ultimately, ministers are accountable to the Prime Minister for their behaviour. What do you think? Has he acted in a way that upholds the highest ethical standards here?
Oh, in making his decisions as a minister, yes, he has.
In this respect?
And in respect of these remarks, he has withdrawn them and apologised because they're wrong.
What undertaking will you give to actually go back and look at whether any decisions he has made have been based on politics, on political views, on the political views of his opponents? Do you need to do a bit of an audit here to check out that this is just some sort of empty threat?
I'd be happy to do that. Look, I think, if that had been the case, I'm sure we would have heard about it, but happy to go back and do that.
So you will do that. You give an undertaking this morning that you will go back and have a look at the decisions that he has made to make sure that they are not based on the political views of his opponents.
Well, yes, certainly with respect to the provision of services that are funded by the public, as I said. Unlike previous governments, actually, I mean, we do hold ourselves to a high standard in this respect. We don't use the funding levers to manipulate opinion. We are always working with people who disagree with us, and that's partly inherent in being a centre-right government who's focused so strongly on better public services, and that is a lot of people who provide our public services don't vote for us.
Just finally, we've only got just over a minute on negative gearing. Isn't it fair enough for Labor to say, look, we're going to knock negative gearing on the head. Landlords don't need a tax break.
Look, the problem is, first, it's not a new policy. They had it last election. At a time, right now, we need more houses. This is extra tax on housing. It creates uncertainty. And Labor's policy of slashing work visas also means the construction workforce will be affected. So just when we need more houses, they're putting in place policies that will probably have the impact of less houses.
So you don't think that you need to make any moves to level the playing field for first home buyers in terms of the tax breaks that landlords get?
No, we don't. Look, our tax system treats all businesses as businesses. It's not a loophole. It's how our tax system works.
And that's how you see it, being a landlord as business?
It is a business, yes. And right now we need more houses. This will be today creating uncertainty, which makes it harder to get more houses on the ground faster.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in to the studio this morning. We run up against the 8 o'clock news, so we're running out of time, but we appreciate your time, Prime Minister Bill English.
Thank you.
RNZ News at 8. Good morning, I'm Nicola Wright. The Labour Party leader Andrew Little says the Prime Minister needs to give an assurance that government contractors are not going to be